Welcome to the Abarth 500e, and it's very unique because despite the fact that it's an electric vehicle, one of the most interesting things about it is how it sounds. Have a listen.
More on that in a bit, but first, what have we actually got here? Well, it's a hot hatch based on the Fiat 500e Super Mini, and that means that it's essentially an EV equivalent to the Abarth 595 and 695 petrol models, which, by the way, are still on sale at the time of filming. However, this EV version is very much the future, and you can buy it as a hardtop from just over £34,000 and as a cabrio from £37,000.
Now it's important to note that this isn't just an Abarth 595 or 695 with an electric vehicle powertrain. It's actually a whole new bespoke electric vehicle platform which is shared with the Fiat 500e. And according to Abarth, that's great for performance because it means that it's got a lower centre of gravity, it's got a wider track and also a longer wheelbase. The only real issue is how much it weighs. We'll get onto that in a sec. What I want to talk about now though is how it looks, because I think the styling on this is just mega. From the Fiat 500e, there are some key differences, such as this new front bumper, which is way more aggressive looking. It's also got the big Abarth lettering, so you're in no doubt what this car is, and that's in place of where the 500 lettering would be on the Fiat, and it's also in that indented sort of fake grille space. Below that, there's the honeycomb sort of effect, secondary grille down there. And then underneath that is the white diffuser, which really stands out against the paint colour. And the colours, actually, are pretty special as well. This one is acid green. You can also get poison blue, adrenaline red, venom black, and antidote white. So some really good colour names and some interesting colours. Even the ducts absolutely love it, as you can see. Moving round to the side, alloys. These are 18-inch alloys. You can't get 18 inches on the 595 and the 695, so that's nice. Bigger wheels, nice design on it with the scorpion in the middle. Also titanium grey, I believe, is the colour we've got there. And then the mirror caps, they're also grey, so that stands out from the Fiat. And along the side, we can see a new side skirt with more Abarth lettering down there. You can see it. And this is my favourite point. You've got the scorpion badge, but you've got a lightning bolt going through it. I think it looks amazing, and it's a really nice take on the whole electric car thing. Actually, it's worth pointing out that on the launch edition cars there was a nice sort of 3D effect going on the side skirt, but apparently you can't get that now that the launch edition cars have sold out. Finally, around the back, it's a bit more pared down. There is a bigger spoiler, there is a Abarth lettering as you can imagine, and there is a diffuser, but other than that it's quite subtle. And there's also no exhaust, which for an Abarth kind of looks a bit odd.
Step inside the 500e's cabin and the broad outline is very similar to its Fiat sibling. It's got the same distinctive shape and the odd bit shared with the Maserati MC20 supercar, yet there's also neat touches aplenty. The sports seats have the Abarth logo lasered into the Alcantara, while double stitching and a bright blue handle add welcome flashes of colour. The wheel and dash also get the Alcantara treatment, yet overall it's nowhere near as loud and attention-grabbing as the exterior. Now though, onto the driving.
So come on, everyone, I'm sure, including me, wants to know what is the sound generator and its fake noise like in real life, because I've not heard it before, and perhaps you haven't heard it before. So how does it actually sound? Well, the first thing to note is it's not really fake noise, because they've got the noise that this car makes from recordings of the 595 and the 695. So it's real sound. It's just played artificially in the same way that you'd get engine sounds in a video game, for example. And apparently the whole project took thousands of man hours and 2 years to complete, so they weren't messing around with this. And I've got to say, there's good points and there's bad points about it. We'll start with the good points, and the first is that it is very loud. So if you thought that the little speaker couldn't deliver the kind of punch that you get from a petrol-powered model, then don't worry, because it does. Also, it's quite a nice sound, and it's even got a little bit of turbo whistle in there as well, which is nice. The bad points though, well, tell you what, I'm on a motorway now, and it sounds like I haven't changed gear. It sounds like I should be in 5th, but actually I'm in 3rd or 4th, so it's just a bit of a constant drone, and it's making me think I need to change gear, but obviously I can't. Also, when you accelerate and then come off the power, it's like there's rev hang, because the noise doesn't die down in quite the same way that it would on a petrol powered car. And I think, you know, this is fine. It needs a little bit of software adjustment. It'd be really handy if I could just turn it off on motorways and then turn it on when I get into town or a nice country road. But you can't really do that, because you need to go into the digital dashboard display, press all the buttons and then turn it off. And you can only do that when you're stationary. It really just needs a button that says off and on. That would be the best way to have this system, because now I just feel like turning it off, because I'm driving on this motorway and it is pretty irritating. Don't know if you can hear it, but it's just buzzing away in a way that it wouldn't do if this was a petrol powered Abarth.
Some will love the generated engine noise, others will hate it. For me, I admire the idea, but it does need work on its execution. What I'm more interested in though is whether the 500e actually performs like a proper hot hatch.
Now this car has about 152 brake horsepower and 179 pounds-foot of torque, which is about in the middle of the range on a petrol-powered Abarth. It's also got a 0 to 62 mile an hour time of around 7 seconds, and the top speed, because it's an EV, is pretty low. It's 96 miles an hour. And then when you add in the fact that it's quite heavy at 1,400 kilograms, and you can thank all the electric bits for that, that means that it's about 350 kilograms more than, say, a 595. It doesn't look too promising.
And yet, despite this, the 500e is apparently a whole second quicker around the Blocko test track than an Abarth 695. Part of the reason for this surely must lie in its rolling acceleration times. From 12 to 25 mile an hour, 25 to 37 mile an hour, and 37 to 62 mile an hour, the EV is significantly quicker, managing the latter sprint a whole second faster than the 695. In fact, the only metric they don't mention, and which presumably is slower due to the extra weight, is the immediate launch off the line.
In short, this is a quick little car, and because it's electric, you've got all of the torque available straight away, so there's no hanging around for a turbo to come in. You just put your foot down and off you go. And from a point and squirt perspective, that's pretty good fun. I also like how the seating position is miles better than it was on the 595 and the 695. In that, it felt like you were driving a bus. In this, it's not perfect. It's not like you're in an Alpine A110 all of a sudden, but you do actually have a place to put your left leg, you're sitting a bit lower down, and it just feels more natural, so you can enjoy it. Now this car does feel pretty heavy, and the way that translates into the road is that it doesn't move around very much. In, for example, a Fiesta ST, you really feel the back coming into play when you overload the front, and then the back will come around and you'll get things like lift-off oversteer, which is great fun. But in this, you're not really getting that. It feels very planted, very tied down, which point-to-point pace-wise, well, that's fantastic, but having a bit of fun, not so good. Also, the steering is not hugely communicative, I've got to say, and there is a bit of body roll too. So if I was going to compare it against a 595 and a 695, the main difference, as you might expect, is that it does just feel heavier, and that affects the way that it comes into corners, because you've just got that extra mass on the brakes. The brakes are actually pretty good, but it just means that it's not as willing to rotate and feel quite as light on its toes. That's the big difference handling wise. And having that accessible performance at low speeds is one of the big things about little performance cars, is you want them to make a normal road feel exciting. And I don't think this does that as well as the 595 and the 695. But pace-wise, it's every bit as good, if not a bit better.
So despite the extra weight, the Abarth 500e is as quick, if not quicker, than the petrol variants. What does all that extra performance do to the boring but also very important things like range?
Well, you see, the issue here is that the Abarth 500e has more power than the Fiat 500e, but it's got the same 42 kilowatt hour battery. And that means that the range is about 160 miles, whereas in the Fiat 500e, it's about 200 miles. And because this literally encourages you to drive it faster, that's also going to take the range down another notch.
Fast charging is available, but you're limited to 85 kilowatts, so a 0 to 80% charge takes around 35 minutes. Meanwhile, AC charging is 11 kilowatts and takes around 4 hours to go from empty to full.
Now, for some people, that's going to be fine. It depends how you drive the car, but for others, if you want to drive this car how it encourages you to drive it, that's going to be a bit of an issue, because the range, and I can tell you this because we've been driving it pretty hard today, the range is just going to plummet.
All in all, however, I admire the effort behind the Abarth 500e. I don't think the handling is as fun as the petrol versions, yet the response and, yes, the sound of the electric powertrain shows promise. It just needs to scrub off a few 100 kilos. But even as it is now, the 500e is arguably a better all-rounder than the 595 or 695, and as I mentioned earlier, it's still a proper head-turner.
However, there is a but at the end of all of that, because right now in the UK you can buy a brand new Abarth 595 from around £23,000. This costs from around £34,000. £11,000 difference. £11,000 on a hot super mini like this. That's an awful lot of money. I mean, by all means, if you want a fun, characterful, loud little hot hatch, then this is a good car. It is. But just bear in mind that you can get all of those things for £11,000 less with the same badge if you just get the petrol variant. So unless you absolutely must have an electric car, then you have to ask the question, is this worth £11,000 more than the petrol version?